Another Sunday means another Arkansas football recruiting report. Otis Kirk and Jacob Morris with you. Notice a couple big decision days for Arkansas coming up. A couple guys looking to make commitments and guys that Arkansas would like to have, to say the least. We start on the defensive side of the ball. Reginald Vaughn, a great name, first of all. He'd be on all-name team if it was up to me. He's a defensive lineman making his decision come Saturday. I know LSU, the Mississippi schools involved here as well. What are you hearing?
He's from Flowood, Mississippi. Yeah, he visited the last weekend here. He was at he came in that last weekend. They had official visits. He's a 4-star with Rivals and ESPN, 3-star with 24/7 and on 3. It's down to 4 schools. It'll be Arkansas, LSU, and the 2 Mississippi schools. Probably right now, I think Ole Miss may have the inside track, but Arkansas is still pushing for him. He also attended a 7-on-7 with his teammates one day up here, and was here. He and the Simmons kid that went to Alabama. I'm sorry. Yeah, they were here for a 7-on-7, but he likes Arkansas. He was going to wait, make his decision later on, but when he was here for the official visit, he told me he's going to make his decision after the season, or certainly later in the season. But he's really moved that up big time. We'll see where Arkansas. He is not taking an official visit to those other schools, so we'll see if the official visit made a big difference for Arkansas or not. But he's from Mississippi, so it may be hard to pull him out of there. But Arkansas certainly try, and he would help Arkansas, definitely help on that defensive line. They've gone after a bunch of players, but we'll see how it turns out with him. But right now, if I had to guess, I would pick Ole Miss. But hey, no one picked Arkansas for Tavion Wallace either. So we'll see how this plays out, because I don't think it's a lock that he's going to Ole Miss. I just think that they may have the inside track right now, but we'll see where he ends up come Saturday. But Arkansas certainly, I know, well, all 4 of those schools would certainly love to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. It helps to have a guy like that in the trenches. And to your point, right, recruiting's so up in the air. Somebody could be leaning some way for 8 months, and then on decision day something sways. So Arkansas just has to hope come Saturday that's the case, right?
Yeah, Deke's done a good job on that defensive line recruiting. Yeah. Last year they kind of struggled there, not because of him, just they came in second on a lot of kids. But he's done a good job closing in on some of these players, and and I do know Reginald likes him. He said that was the main reason he visited Arkansas, because of Deke Adams. So, like I said, it's not Deke if they don't get a kid. He's certainly done above and beyond his job. Sometimes, they want to stay closer to home or whatever. But, we'll see where this ends up on Saturday. But Arkansas certainly love to have him, and he would definitely help Arkansas. I think Reginald's someone that could probably play immediately if he needed to. He could probably play as a freshman.
Yeah. And we've talked again and again about these are the types of recruiting battles. Obviously, you have to win, but you have to be in them to even give yourself a chance to win. So that's how this goes sometimes. We know that defensive staff has done a really good job going out and recruiting. Let's say in the trenches, an offensive lineman, Lionel Prudhomme, another good name right there. He's making a decision on Friday. He's a Shreveport kid, Texas Tech, Arizona State in there as well. Another guy in the trenches that Coach Mateos would like to have.
Yeah, Mississippi State there again, they're in there. Ole Miss is in there. You seem to be Texas Tech's in there. It seems to be a lot of the schools going after the same kid.
Yeah.
And what happens is, when you get a big lineman who's big enough to play in the SEC, has the academics, has the talent, obviously, then most of these schools focus in on them, because those linemen on either side of the ball don't really grow on trees. But Lionel also visited Arkansas, took an official visit here. And I think he's pretty much up in the air. Some people, but Arkansas is trying to get him out of there. Tulane's in there also, out of the state of Louisiana. I don't see him going to Tulane, though. I think he will leave the state. So that's one barrier I think Arkansas has crossed. The kid, I don't think the kid will stay in the state to play college football. So can you get a kid to leave the state like we were talking about Reginald Vaughn? It may be, Well, with Lionel, he's going to leave the state, in my opinion. I don't think he'll go to Tulane. So but he's more of an interior offensive lineman, Jacob. I don't see him playing tackle. He's 6'3", 6'4". I think he's listed 6'3", 295. That's probably close. 6'3", 6'4", 300, 295. But yeah, Arkansas likes him. But just there again, they crossed one barrier, get him to leave the state. We'll see now where he chooses. But Arkansas is certainly in the mix for him. They've always been in the mix for him. He's been up here on unofficial a few times as well. And I think he likes Arkansas. Well, I know he likes Arkansas, but we'll just have to see where he ends up. But Ole Miss is certainly Mississippi State. Mississippi State might be ahead of Ole Miss here if he goes that direction. I think he picked Mississippi State over Ole Miss, whereas so Bond might pick Ole Miss, but but Texas Tech, they're in there, and so it's just when you get down to the end, these kids have a lot of choices, and we're talking about the same schools basically for these kids. So, but Arkansas certainly like to pull some of these in here at the end and add one or two more to that class of 2025. So we'll see how this all ends up here in the next week. We'll certainly know more by next Sunday on two of these kids for sure. Prudhomme and Bond.
Yeah. Next weekend shaping up to be interesting in that department. Arkansas feel really good, maybe solid or maybe not so good when it comes to those two. Mississippi State, of course, interesting from the offensive line standpoint because that's Cody Kennedy. That's your former offensive line coach right there. So you've got Coach Mateo's kind of battling there against Coach Kennedy, which is interesting. But let's stick on the offensive line. Another upcoming commitment here. We're smack dab in the middle of it, Otis. Nelson McGuire, an offensive lineman as well. I know at the end of July, he's going to make his decision. He's coming down to same sort of schools, right? Texas Tech's in the mix there as well.
Yeah, Kansas. I think this is a three-team hunt: Arkansas, Texas Tech, and Kansas State. He visited Texas Tech got the last visit. He was here on a Wednesday through Friday morning, left on Friday morning. He and his family went to Texas Tech. He'd already visited Kansas State. One time was committed to Minnesota. Some people still have Minnesota in there. I don't think that's happening. He decommitted from them, and I just don't see that. If he was going to go there, I don't think he'd ever decommitted, Jacob. So I feel like this is going to be a three-team hunt with Arkansas, Texas Tech, Kansas State. Some people feel like Texas Tech may be the leader, whereas someone told me the other day they think Texas Tech's out of it, and it's Arkansas, Kansas State. So there again, and this is a kid that's really played it close to best. He's really played it close to best. I talked about that last week. Honestly, probably no one knows where he's going but him, and he may not know yet. But like I said, you have some people saying he's leaning to Texas Tech, others saying they're not even still in it. So that's what I say. I don't think anybody truly knows on him. And I'll tell you what, you're talking about a good looking lineman. He is about 6'4", 310. He made a mistake. He told me he was 6'5" at first, and then he changed it to 6'4" when I was interviewing. And I told him, I said, I would have never doubted you at 6'5". I mean, he looks the part. He's bigger than Lionel. He's bigger than him, taller and weight wise. Tell you what, he is, man, you put him at guard, although he can play tackle, he's right there. But you put him out there and you got you a heck of a player. In Midlothian, Texas, just of the three players I mentioned, he might be the best one. Although Reginald Vaughn, I don't know. I mean, he's up there too. But if you got one of these linemen, you'd probably rather have McGuire than Lionel. But you take either one of them. But man, like I said, this kid really impressed me with his size. He's really plays it close to the best. I don't think anyone knows where he's going, but one school will be happy on the 31st. I can tell you that, because be it Kansas State, Arkansas, or Texas Tech, they're going to get a good one there. I mean, a real good one. And he's a 3-star, but I don't care about that. This kid could be a 4-star very easily. But whoever gets him is getting a good one. I'm just telling you, man. I stood next to him and looked at him, and as I said, he told me 6'5", and he said, "Oh, I'm 6'4", and but he's legit 6'4" and 310. That fluctuates. I mean, he could be 315, but I think he's got long wingspan and stuff. If he needed to play tackle, he could do it. But I think it would be a natural fit at guard. But wherever the school plays him, he can fit in. I think he could probably fit into all 5 positions on the offensive line and play anywhere they need him to. But as I said, somebody's going to get a really good one on July the 31st.
Yeah, you mentioned him kind of playing it close to the vest. Isn't it so funny how that stuff goes with the standpoint that that's why you got to be really careful about making assumptions, because there's 10 days to this commitment. In his head, you never know. He could decide, I'm going this way one day, this way the other day. You can't assume until the commitment day rolls around. You kind of, as painful as it is, you kind of just got to wait until July 31st comes around.
He was pretty honest too. He told me when I talked to him on that before he told me he was going to decommit from Minnesota at noon on Sunday, and he did. Yeah. And he asked me to hold on to that and don't mention it till then. And he trusted me enough to tell me that. So he opened up some, but like I said, he just very guarded with his statements and stuff. And but he did tell me he was going to decommit from Minnesota. And I asked him, was it the distance? Because all these other schools, Arkansas, Kansas State, and Tech, are obviously closer to Midlothian, Texas than Minnesota. And he said, no, it wasn't the distance at all. He said he felt like he rushed into the decision, maybe made it too early. But he said the distance was not a factor. And so coming to Arkansas or Mississippi, I'm sorry, Arkansas or Kansas State, Mississippi State on the break. Arkansas or Kansas State would not be a factor, be the distance, because Tech would probably be closer to him than those, but distance to home is not a factor with this kid. So that won't play into it. So Arkansas has got a chance there.
Well, an important couple decisions to monitor over the next couple of weeks. We know you'll have your eye on that, Otis. Looking forward to seeing where those go. But wrapping up, we got to talk about the hog cookout. Before we came on here, you said just about everybody involved in this coming up. Just what did you hear overall? I know a lot of big names involved with this.
Yeah, Tavion Wallace will be here, the linebacker who committed from down there in Georgia. He will be here. That's always good to get him back on campus. But I tell you, kid, I'm excited about is Colton Yarborough from Durant, Oklahoma, an edge in 2026. I believe he told me last year, he was here at this event last year, and I'm pretty sure he told me his grandmother graduated from the University of Arkansas. I know he said she went to Arkansas. I believe he said she graduated. But Colton is just, man, he's the #1 player in Oklahoma in 2026. One of the top edge rushers in the country. He should be a 5-star. I think he's a high 4-star, but he should be a 5-star. I'm just telling you, this kid is as good as any player in the class of 2026 in the nation. And I love him from Durant, Oklahoma. That's just barely on getting ready. When you leave Durant, you're almost in Texas down there. If people don't know where Durant is, when you're driving to Dallas down that road, you go through McAllister. Durant's right there before you get to getting to Texas. But he's going to be here. He kind of comes. Grayson Wilson will be here. Antonio Jordan, the wide receiver at Warren. Tosh Overton, the safety from Alabama, who's committed to Arkansas. They're just the Jet's going to be here. Caleb Smith from Allen, Texas. They call him the Jet. They call him that for a reason. This kid runs track, and he can absolutely fly. He doesn't have a takeoff. He's already up in the air when he starts running. I mean, they call him the Jet for a reason. Caleb Smith from from Allen, Texas. But he is just, he's fast, Jacob. This kid's a real deal. He will be here. Cody Taylor, Greenwood, a player we've had on here before, at least once, maybe twice. But Greenwood, he'll be here. I should have said more about Grayson Wilson Conway. Grayson just went to Conway. And I'm going to tell you, I think Grayson Wilson and Antonio Jordan are the top 4 players in Arkansas. I really do, in the class of 2025. They may not be rated there with the recruiting service, but I think Man and Curious Kern and those two. And then you put probably Marcus Wimberly and Cash Archer in there. Yeah. You're getting about top 6 there. And then the kids at Parkview, Quentin Murphy. You can get 10 good prospects in Arkansas in 2025. All the kids at Parkview. I already mentioned Omarion Robinson. I call him Man, but and then so there's some good prospects in 2025. But I think Grayson Wilson and Antonio Jordan are right there with any of them. but Grayson will be here. He came in for his official visit. It's been funny not to see him up here all the time because when he's a recruiter, he's here all the time. He's been concentrating on getting ready to play his senior year at Conway. Went over there from Central Arkansas Christian, but there's going to be some talent here next Saturday, and we'll obviously have you. I will have you covered. I'll be getting any interview I can. Man, there's a bunch. There's a lot more kids coming, and there'll be more sign up this week. But that is a great event. They had a lot of prospects in last year that ended up signing or committing here and signing. Braylon Russell was at that last year. It's just, hey, what this is a good event. And Grayson Wilson was here last year. They bring me in to have a picnic. It's the last weekend. Really, business, the dead period just ending. You get these kids on campus. It's the last shot before the season starts because they're all going to start concentrating on their, well, I shouldn't say senior season, junior season, senior season, concentrating on their football season. But just this is a chance to make an impression. And Arkansas usually gets a commitment or two out of this, Jacob. Last year, the Logan kid, the linebacker, committed, and another one or two did as well. So we'll see how it goes, but I think it's huge getting Tavion Wallace back up here because he committed to Arkansas. I think he's solid, but you just want to keep getting him here and him liking what he sees because that's a kid. Florida State, Florida, Georgia are not going to back off just because he committed to Arkansas, but he is a difference maker. And I think, like I said, I think Grayson and Antonio Jordan. I'm looking forward to seeing those two kids hook up at Arkansas on passes because Grayson can get the ball out there and Jordan can certainly run and catch it. And then the jet, let Grayson throw a few to him. And Yarborough, I tell you what, like I said, I don't know. I'm not a national recruiting guy, but I'll put Colton up there with anybody in the class of 2026. I don't care about position. Any position, I'll put Colton Yarborough right there with him, Jacob. I'm that high on that kid. I just think he's a big time player. If anybody's seen him play, when they watch him, they say, now I see what you were talking about. I hear that every time. And if I get to go to the A&M game this year, which I have been the last 3 or 4 or 5, whatever, I think I've been to all of them lately. But if Durant's playing close that night, I may actually stay over, depending on what time A&M Arkansas kick off, and I may stay and watch Colton play there if Durant is nearby, and instead of going into Dallas, but that night. But he's just I love that. I love the kid. He's great, very friendly, great kid, got a good personality, great personality, but he can play, and he's just as good as anybody out there. And certainly the edge position. And as I said, the recruiting service is having #1 player in Oklahoma, but that to me is a no-brainer. I think he's the best player in Oklahoma, regardless of class, not just 2026, but any class.
Wow.
I'm probably higher on him than maybe I should be, but I just think he's a big-time difference maker. And I don't know what Arkansas will get him. I do know he was here at this event last year. He's been to a game. He came to a camp year before last. He's been here a lot. He continues to come here. And when they do that, they shows they've got interest. I mean, this is not U of A is not paying his way here. This kid is paying his own way, or he's got somebody bringing him. So I think Arkansas's got a chance at him. And if they could get him, like I said, you get kids like Colton Yarborough and Tavion Wallace and kids like that, you're changing the outlook of that defense, a whole team for that matter. But you got to swing for the fences. You may miss. You may not get them, but you got to swing for it. And that's what Arkansas is doing with players like Colton Yarborough, Tavion Wallace, Caleb the Jet, and underrated kids like maybe Grayson Wilson, who has offers that he hasn't put out there because when he committed, he said he meant the word committed was committed. So he's not interested in these schools offering him a scholarship, but he's got more scholarships than he's put out there because he's not interested in them. So why is he going to publicize? That's just, you don't see very many kids with that attitude anymore, but you got to take your hat off to him. And then, like I said, Antonio Jordan was another one that just didn't take any visits, doesn't even have a huddle highlight film because he wasn't interested in going anywhere but Arkansas, and you wish they're all like that, but obviously they're not. But there's 2 players right there that is good. And really good players, good people. And, Bo Henry turns out receivers down there at Warren. I don't know what's in the water down there, but man, they've turned out some great wide receivers down there. And not just receiver, tight end Chris Gregg, who played receiver some, but was tight end up here. But you just want to keep those kids like that in the state in Arkansas. They've lost some players in the state this year. They kind of took a beating there, but they've got some key ones. And sometimes you got to look at the ones you get, not the ones you don't get. And there again, as I said before, some of these battles are not over yet. As I said about Tavion Wallace, Florida State's not going to, and others are not going to back off. Yeah. Well, Arkansas is not going to back off because Kerry is hurt or man's committed somewhere else. They're going to keep recruiting these kids too. And I think if Arkansas had a really good season on the field, I think some of these kids might take a second look. Because one thing people have used against Sam is he's not going to be here after this year. He's going to be fired. And if Arkansas wins and has a good season, 8, 9 wins, whatever. I'm not saying they will, but if they do, I think some of these kids might take a second look at Arkansas. And that's what they're hoping for. And some of these they're not going to sway regardless. But you got Quentin Murphy over there at Parkview still recruiting for them. And so we'll see how it all turns out. But a good season on the field would help Arkansas about as much as anything right now. That's for obvious reasons, even beyond recruiting. They just need a good season after last year. It was kind of just short of a disaster, I guess. And you can't, they need a good season. And that'll get rid of the rumors and stuff like that. And then you go from there. But I think some of these kids could still be swayed if Arkansas has a good season and stays on them, which they will. And, and it looks good on the field. Puts product out there that makes people, prospects want to play for them.
Yeah. Winning is the remedy to all things, as the saying goes. And something you said there reminded me also from the standpoint that, especially in today's recruiting, right, somebody might be committed somewhere and you can stay on them and you can try to sway them. But as you and I have talked about before, it's now even more imperative that you don't burn bridges, because somebody might go somewhere for 1 year, not play a single snap, and say, hey, I think I want to come home. And if you burn a bridge, right, all of a sudden that goes out the door. So you got to keep these relationships alive. And that's something that's very important in today's college football. One more thing I wanted to talk about. You mentioned Yarborough obviously being the #1 player in Oklahoma, and it sparked something. Obviously, we were in Dallas this week for SEC Media Days, and Pittman was asked about Lucas and recruiting Oklahoma, and, if he sees, maybe an opportunity to create more of a pipeline there. And Pittman as a whole was pretty straightforward throughout the whole Thursday session, but he was very straightforward. And he said, yeah, we got to recruit Oklahoma because schools are recruiting Arkansas. And so it's pretty much just as simple as that, right? So if it's a border state, you've got a kid like that, an elite talent, you just go get him. And I know what everybody says, you might swing and miss, but you have to absolutely put yourself in a position to have a chance to get a kid like that. And then you never know, but you can't just not make an attempt at it.
Oh, they could have swung and missed at Lucas, and they didn't. They swung and they hit a home run. A grand slam there. And that's how you get Colton Yarborough and Lucas and people like that out of Oklahoma. You've had Felix Jones and others in the past. It's a nearby state. What is it, 25 miles state from Arkansas and Fayetteville, to the state line. Now, obviously, it's further than that to Tulsa and Durant and stuff like that. But the point is, it's a close by state. It's easy to get here, even from Durant or from, any of those schools. It's easy to get here, and Bixby, any of those. So, you want to keep recruiting over there, and it's just a natural. And, people say they won't get Colton. Well, they probably said about Luke too. Everybody thought he was locked for OU or Alabama. So that's why you recruit them, and you won't get them all. But if you can just hit occasional one like Luke or Colton or somebody, and it makes all the sense in the world to go strong in Oklahoma because it's just so close here. And they've had players from Oklahoma that have had a lot of success here. It's easy to point to Luke, Felix Jones, and others, but they've had a lot of success from kids from that state and played here. And so they're going. Quinn Grovey had a lot of success, and so it's just natural if they would recruit that state hard.
Yeah,
and they should.
Yeah. Anything else you want to hit before we go, Otis?
No, I just think that the main thing, like you said, I think it's more important than ever. And you made a good point there about not burning bridges. You don't want to burn bridges anyway. But with the transfer portal now, you may get a second. You may not get the kid the first time around, but you might get him the second time or the third time. So you sure don't want to burn any bridges. And that's why you keep recruiting these kids.
Mm-hmm.
You may flip one on signing day, and you may not flip him, but if you keep in there and you keep recruiting them and keep making a good impression, eventually it may pay off. It may be 2 years down the road. But so what? If you get Colton Yarborough after 2 years, you'll take him. He's that good. And so we'll see how all this works out. But I just think it's going to be exciting next Saturday, that picnic, and not just that, but these announcements. But I think the picnic, as I said, they usually get a commitment or two out of that. And I know Ronnie is trying to get Caleb, the Jet, on board. We'll see if that works out. I don't know that they will get him, but it wouldn't surprise me if they got a commitment there. And we'll see how all this plays out. But they're trying, and that's all you can do at this point. And it's good to get back in it, because it's been about a month here where there hasn't been any recruiting talk really of substance because of the dead period. But now they're going to get one good chance to swing for the fence here next Saturday, and then they start preparing for the season. The kids start preparing for their season. So this is a one chance next Saturday to make a strong impression. And most of these kids, or all of them, have been here before, so it's not like they haven't seen this place. But so we'll see. But it's easy when they've been here before, because you can kind of show them additional things, and they're interested. If they've been here before and they're coming back on their dime, then they're interested. And so then you can try to make a strong impression. You got 1 or 2 commitments out of this, even if it's for 2026, you would take it.
Yeah, absolutely. A big couple weeks coming up in recruiting for Arkansas. Otis will have every single bit of it covered. Busy weekend coming up for him. That's going to do it for this week's Arkansas Football Recruiting Report. That's Otis Kirk. I'm Jacob Morris. We'll talk to you next week.